Hello, everyone. Irit Eizips here. And today I have the award winners of the CX USA Awards for 2022. It's Sam Wegman and Lee Kemp from Univar Solutions. Hi, Sam and Lee.
How are you this morning or afternoon?
Hey, thanks so much for joining me. I am thrilled that you're taking out time from your busy schedule to kind of go over this amazing program that you set up for your company to elevate the customer experience and the sensational results that you got out of that. And the part that I'm interested in the most is the innovative part of the program, because I think that blew our mind as judges. I'm really excited to share some of the innovative stuff that you guys had included as part of your program. Hope everybody's ready. Sit tight. This is going to be so interesting. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with all the details around the CX program. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming back. So like I promised, today we have Sam and Lee who are going to take us through a customer experience program that they set up for their own organization. And what are some of the breakthrough results that they have received from that, and some of the innovative elements of the program that led them to win multiple awards under the CX USA award competition. And so Sam and Lee, thank you so much for your time. And then how many awards did you win based on this program?
Yeah, we did okay for our first try. We were 4 for 4, which would come 3 gold and a silver. And I give all credit to Lee because he was kind of nagging, like, I think we're ready to submit some of our work. I go, it's less than 2 years. I don't know that we're ready to go out there and compete yet, but I'm really glad that we did. I'm glad that he pushed for us to compete. It's just opened up our world in terms of connections like yourself and other people that we were able to spend time with and talk about our program. So yeah, we were very fortunate. We're still disappointed that we didn't take home 4 gold, but we'll take 3 gold and a silver to kick it off.
Always room for improvement, right? Always got something to strive for.
You say it's about 2 years now. When we were doing the awards, it was about like winter 2020. When did you start?
Yeah, great memory. It was. I was pulled out of my role, which was managing a lot of different things. We were in the middle of an integration of acquiring one of our largest competitors, which happened to be a company I used to work for. So it was kind of fun to bring the family back together. And this little thing, pandemic, had really started to kick in. So CEO came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, pulling you out of the day-to-day craziness and like you to go create a CX strategy. And I'm like, sounds like fun. And Lee at the same time was working on the integration team and doing some things and was on the supply chain side. I've been mostly on the commercial side, but Lee was also tapped on the shoulder to come and work really well together as a team.
Why was it so important for the CEO to set up that program at that time?
You know, David Jukes, our CEO, had a lot of experience in this business and a lot of good insight. I think what we were just mentioning is you're in the middle of a pandemic or the start of a pandemic. The Texas freeze in the United States had just happened. So the supply chains were already starting to be disruptive. We as a company disrupted our own business by acquiring our competitor and then going through some back office shared services realignment, territory realignment. I mean, you name it, everything was happening, except to focus on our customers. Now, we did a good job focusing on our customers, don't get me wrong, but we didn't have a program design. And I think his vision was, look, it's going to take us a couple of years. Of course, we didn't know at that time the pandemic would be so long, but we thought, okay, we'll get through this, and then we'll get through kind of our transition and get on SAP, I forgot to mention. And by the time we come out of that, we want this program to be built and ready such that we can start to hold ourselves really accountable and drive forward without any distractions in customer experience.
2 years into the program, what are some of the results you're already seeing?
We've had that support top down. It starts there. You know, our CEO and our executive team, right from the beginning, said, hey, we're going to put the customer at the center of all we do, which a lot of B2B companies, that's why we're here, is for our customer. But to really put an effort and say, hey, we've assigned these 2 individuals to go set up a program. And I think what we started to find was let's measure the voice of customer, pretty basic process, right? And Lee leads that. And I think what we have found is gathering that voice of customer, number one, was a miss for us. And so we wanted to be able to really understand what our customers were saying. And we also then at that point, because when you start bringing in that feedback, you got to have the culture that can accept it, which, Lee has up here on the screen. And at the end of the day, sometimes perception isn't reality, but it's the perception of the customer's experience. So this voice of customer program we stood up as a foundation, something we had to do. Then we had to work with our organization and really define what a customer experience journey looks like. I tell a story a lot where I joined the industry about 30 years ago. And my first job was kind of in a back office function, and no one ever explained to us what we did. And so I just went into my job and went home. And I've always carried that with me through this program to say there's so many people at our organization that aren't associated directly to a customer, but everything they do impacts the customer. So we spent a lot of time on that in the culture side and setting up the voice of customer.
Sam talked a lot about the culture and establishing that voice of customer program. And when we think about where we've come, so really starting everything as a proof of concept, right? You don't have to go big right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Test your ideas out, make sure it's going to function. Last thing you want to do is deploy a train wreck to your customers and make that visible. So we started in the US, and we made sure that everything was functioning right, that we could get the adoption we needed to from the business. And then we gradually took it global. And so we're really excited to now have that perspective from all of our customers around the world, and making sure that concurrently we had that focus internally around our culture. Employee experience matters greatly, but then also making sure that your employees are thinking about the customer. So we had to make sure we defined what mattered. There's a lot of different ways to measure performance and success for a business, but we knew we needed customer-facing metrics that really saw things through the lens of the customer. And a lot of people say that, but I'm really excited about the metrics we put in place. You think about product availability, for example, and there's a lot of different ways that you can fundamentally measure working capital, and do you have the right stocking strategy? Do you have your safety stock and those kinds of things? But are you asking yourself the question, do you actually have the product available when and where and how the customer wants it? Are you measuring your performance to that expectation, whether it's realistic or not? So we needed to do that. We needed to make sure that we were measuring on-time delivery correctly. And we wanted to make sure that there were strong correlations back to all of that. You take all of that data that you have now from your voice of customer, customer sentiment, and then your internal metrics, and you pull it all together. And you got to have that governance and accountability around it. So don't waste time measuring things you're not going to actually do something with. We get requests all the time. Hey, can we survey this? Can we ask this? Can we do this? And the question I challenge them with every time is, are we going to do anything different tomorrow because of the data you receive? If the answer is no, then don't waste your customers' time. That's what data is there for. It's not just nice to have. It's not just, well, I'd like to know about that. No, is it going to change the way we do business? And so I think we've accomplished those things, and we're seeing the results. We're excited to communicate to the world that, our NPS is improving, a little bit at a time. It's a long road, but we're getting there. We're having incremental improvement quarter over quarter. We're seeing improvements in our customer satisfaction scores, right? A different way for us to measure that. We're seeing the feedback now echoing what we think we've been doing. So we're excited to see that validation.
We focused on culture. We focused on having the right metrics, and we focused on capturing the voice of customer and bringing that all together. And I think our learnings have been, when you have those three elements in place, to Lee's point, you really start to make a lot of good progress.
Yeah, maybe you can double click a little bit about what were you doing exactly that you feel like made a difference in the customer experience, but also in the employee experience.
I mentioned earlier that I think it was really important from an employee experience. You can't have a good customer experience unless we have a good employee experience, because they just feed off each other. And so that customer journey was critical to me. And it, again, takes me back many, many years ago to when I worked for the same company, because now we've merged and we're one company. So I can say that. But yeah, I cared about what I did and I was good at it, but I never really had a connection to the customer. So we wanted to define that journey in simplest forms. And we really created a tagline that we are all CX. So the company understood it's no matter what your role is, everyone is CX. We want our customers to feel that, but it's not just external, it's internal customers. So when we look at the customer journey, our tagline was the customer just wants. And then we just created this little twister map here that just basically says along these touch points, they're very high level. There's probably hundreds of touch points underneath each of these. But for the average person in our company, when we talk about like touch point 6 and we talk about order, they just want the order to be on time and it to be accurate and those types of things. So we developed training around that just rolled out actually the last month or so It took about a year for us to build it, but we worked with all kinds of functions across the company and said, what is your role like and how do you impact the customer? And now everyone in the company is required to take it. So we're starting to see really good progress, good feedback from people to say, wow, this is great. I had no idea how my role connected to the customer journey. So that's just one area.
I think just an intense focus around the change management aspect. We're really proud of our data-driven approach, but we talked about the importance of culture. And if you don't have that change management bolted on, and not just bolted on, but really throughout your plan, you're not going to land it.
The other piece too is that recognition. I think I underestimated there are things going on every single day that benefit the customer experience. And so we've put programs in place and we give away a CX coin for people that are nominated for going above and beyond and doing things. And we make it a big deal. We do a Teams call or face-to-face. Lee's at one of our offices today to deliver one of our CX coins. And why it's just a coin. And I don't mean to make it sound like it's nothing, but I just underestimated how important it would be for people to receive the recognition and start collecting these coins. So super excited about that.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that I loved about your program is that you had that, like, do you want to give one of our employees a shout out or something along those lines? How do you come up with who could be recognized that month, that week, who should be deserving of a coin? Is that related to your surveys or not?
Internally, we leverage some of our existing forums. So we have kind of a leadership monthly meeting globally with our North America and globally. So myself or Lee will take turns on that, reminding that you can nominate someone. We've created a simple SharePoint forms. And so the beauty of this is the nominations are coming in from the people in the business. And so what we do is we get them and then we read through them and we decide, okay, we want to really truly feature this one. Everybody that got nominated gets a coin and they get a frame certificate and we mail that out. But there are one or two that we will highlight from each of the regions. So one from EMEA or LATAM or Canada. And if we can get those in each month, we put their picture, what they're doing. So it hopefully drives, again, that continued focus on customer experience, best practices, that sort of thing. So we kind of do a monthly vote on who should get those and featured in our communication channels, but then everyone still receives a coin if they're nominated.
Yeah, another great thing that we do is the kudos around the customer feedback. So customers have a lot to say at times, and it's not always positive, and feedback is a gift. But when they recognize our employees by name, when it's a customer service rep or if it's a driver or a seller, we make sure that their entire leadership team knows it. So as soon as we get those survey results, we're forwarding that on to the leadership team to make sure that great news can be heard and celebrated. And so all the way up through our North America president, they're getting that information and they're celebrating with that employee as well.
So we talked about the Voice of the Customer program. How many surveys did that include, or did you utilize other ways to get the customer's voice beyond surveys?
Yeah, that's been an evolving process for us. We said early on, we need to be really close to the customer right now. Chemical industry was going through a lot of challenges with the supply chain and everything else. And so we wanted to be really close to the customer, especially as we went through these massive transformations in our business. So we were surveying all of our customer contacts on a monthly basis. Now that eventually evolved. We said, okay, we've got enough information. We feel like we can start to kind of spread this out. But a lot of companies we know take an annual approach. We take a quarterly. Again, we want to make sure that our customers have ample opportunity to engage us and let us know how we're doing. And so we do that quarterly approach. I think we're over 20,000 globally at this point. I think we passed that a couple of months ago, 20,000 survey responses since we launched.
Wow.
And we launched globally in June of 21, and we launched in the US alone in March of 21. So, we've got good, consistent participation, and we'd love more. So, hey, customers, participate. Tell us how we're doing.
One of the challenges for most organizations is getting a response, and especially in B2B. We've had a way to kind of send it out as Lee described, and also every response, especially on a detractor side, is responded to by our sales leadership, every single one, and they have 48 hours to do it. So that's one way that we say, hey, and then Lee and I will pick customers throughout and send promo items like, hey, we've done handwritten cards just to say thank you for your feedback, giving them like earbuds that are from Univar Solutions and just said, we're listening to your feedback. So we're just trying to find creative ways to keep them engaged. And to Lee's point, it's not a significant amount, but of those 20,000, I think it's around 25% take it more than once. So it's really actually nice to be able to see, are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Because some customers will just keep taking it for us. It's been very helpful.
May I ask, since you've done the cards and the follow-up for detractors, because you've had multiple surveys sent in the last couple of years, are you seeing the response rate going up?
It's inconsistent. And so I would say we're pretty stable with about the same, but we, as Lee mentioned, we're evolving our contact list too. Initially, we sent it to any contact in our CRM. Then we kind of whittled it down to only active customers in a set period of time. And then we decided globally, you know what, we really should focus in and have a consistent approach. So in the last 2 to 3 months, we've done that. And so we've made our list a little bit larger. So we hope that the total count will continue to climb. But as I mentioned earlier, we've got ways of trying to get ahead of it without actually getting the feedback that we'll talk about.
So we talked about the Voice of the Customer program that you launched. We talked about the customer journey map that you've created with the 10 significant touch points, the importance of including the employee experience and building the culture around this. Tell me a little bit about how did you leverage customer segmentations to drive the right experience to the right customer?
I think it's important that we have the same language within our business around how we talk about our customers.
Yeah.
How do they buy? How frequently do they buy? What do they buy? And that helps us to group that, and it really helps us to prioritize. You got to have good data around that to make sure that it's accurate and that the business is comfortable with how that lands. Sam?
On the segmentation piece, to his point, our advanced analytics team helped us to build an automated algorithm that runs on a monthly basis. And it has various variables that we look at. Lee mentioned most of them, but we also kind of look at our total potential of that customer as well. Bottom line is then we refresh and put them into buckets so that we can understand how we're, number one, our voice of customers measured. How are we performing at our most strategic customers? Ones that bring a lot of value to the company. We can now see our results by our segments. And then our leaders, like I said, I've been in the business, so is Lee. You can't do everything at once if you get 3 or 4 things you're trying to work on. So what you can decide is, as a leader, I might take this one. It's a strategic customer, and I might delegate down to one of my leads, one of our other segmented customers, because they're all important, but you just can't do them all at once. And then the other thing that we're working, again, we brought 2 cultures together through an integration, was decision rights and empowerment, because we know that customer or that employee experience is better when we can empower closer to our customer. So instead of implementing them into service, we're not quite there yet. We've had a lot of transition. We've got a lot of new people in the organization. But what we can do is empower through our decision rights process and leverage our segmentation that way as well. Should customer segmentation be considered if we're going to look at things around working capital changes or around contracts and things like that? So that's how we've leveraged that. We want to get speed in the hands of the people closest to the customer.
I love these 3 frameworks for data. I think it's really helpful in thinking, what do we need to look at when you're thinking about the different needs, the financial, the experience, and then the touch points, which you've mentioned before, are so critical. And so once you got everything collected, and that in and of itself, how long did it take you to collect everything? Like, nobody talks about like how difficult this is.
Yeah. I had this vision way back in the beginning, like, I got it. We're going to put it all together, because there is this perception of what the customers feel. And oftentimes we're a highly transactional business, a lot of data. And we have, as Lee talked earlier, we have every metric under the sun. But when you want to tell a story and you want to pull it together, it's like, that's really it. We had good partnerships with advanced analytics. So we were given some, again, that top-down support. So we went in and said, okay, CX is a strategic priority. What is it you're looking to do? Well, we weren't really looking to recreate anything. We didn't have ownership for a lot of these metrics. We have functional leaders that have responsibility for our on-time delivery or for maybe our product availability. So we didn't want to recreate that, other than the 2 new metrics that were customer facing. We worked in collaboration with them to build them. And that took probably 9 months to a year, Lee, to build those 2 metrics.
Yep.
But once we had it, we had all the data. It was just visualizing it in one place, working with our advanced analytics team, saying, hey, I'd really like to be able to see when my customers tell me how they're feeling, how are we performing? And if we can get to that, then I think we've got it, because then every conversation we have in the organization, number one, is data driven and not emotionally driven. And so, because sometimes highly transaction, you could have 20 orders go out and be great. It's 21st, it's bad. Our customer's upset. Next thing you know, the organization thinks we're not servicing it well. Well, now we have a transparent scorecard as a result of pulling this all together, that we can go to our customer and say, you're right. We look like we've been starting to slip a little bit here. I see it. I'm ahead of it. And we're able to kind of pull that together now.
Yeah, I would say that was definitely an eye candy as we were watching your presentations in the CX USA. There we go. I mean,
yeah, I probably have a little bit better view I could share, Lee, if you want.
Yep.
because that was our initial design. And then we came back and said, okay, let's get something we can share with our customers. I had to cover up our customer names, but to protect the innocent. But this is what a seller in our organization, a sales leader, anyone in the organization can see when we're having a conversation. This left side of the screen is really the customer sentiment. Who's the customer? Did they take NPS? Obviously, green is good. When you're in the tool, it's through Tableau. This would highlight and it would say what our actual score was. But obviously, they're a promoter, they're green. We ask a question around satisfaction. How responsive are we to your needs and issues? And so this customer is very happy with that. Customer journey touch point around our billing. If we bill you incorrectly, it creates a short payment. That's what that is. That's a negative customer experience. So it's just one area. Then we do ask additional questions like, why do you buy from us? They'll tell us in the survey, the NPS survey. It's only 7 questions. It takes about 2 minutes or less. It's mobile friendly. Wow. And we get a really good pass-through rate. We thought, oh, they'll just tell us the NPS in the email and move on, but people actually do fill it out. And so they tell us why they buy from us, why they buy less from us, in this case, price, who took the survey, and who's our relationship seller out in the field. So that's everyone in the organization is grounded on what the customer thinks of us. The right side of the screen are some key indicators. CARs are corrective actions. So when the customer has a complaint or a quality issue, we track those through our system. So at a high level, we can see a trend. Are our complaints going up or down? Our ATP pass, as Lee talked about, that's our ability to measure, right, are reasonable or not. When you place an order, did I have the product available on the day you wanted it? And you can see in this scenario, it's improving. Obviously, we want to be at 100%. If we're not, then you can see that we have dips there where we're not 100%. Right. And then the last one, there's on-time delivery. We made a commitment to you. I told you I'd have it to you on Friday. Did I meet it? 100% if I did, if not. And what's beautiful about this is, okay, so right now we got a happy customer. They feel like our service levels are pretty good. But if they didn't, we would be able to then, the bottom part of the screen, which I couldn't get on one slide, you could see, we then show areas of where we failed. So in this case, there's some sales allocation going on because supply chain's tight, or maybe they bought more than what we expected, or bought outside of our normal lead time. As Lee mentioned earlier, reasonable or not, we just care about the experience. So we may have told you a week lead time and you gave us 2 days, but we're going to count it as a failure. And then we're going to take these root causes and work with the functional teams to see, how do we get this better? So that's an example of like a customer that's happy with us, but even so, we're not perfect, but I can walk into an account or a seller or anyone in the organization to say, how is this customer performing? And then we get to a customer that potentially isn't so happy. And in this case, the NPS was our synthetic NPS. They didn't actually take the survey. And so our algorithms are running in the background. This is new. We're just launching. Lee and I are going to be going on a roadshow, but the little yellow would indicate that this is synthetic. This is what we think, that they would be a detractor, or in this case. And then you go over to the right side and you can kind of see the service level results aren't so great. So when I hover on this in the details, it would say it's a synthetic detractor as a result of our service levels. And our service levels, as you can see, aren't so great. And so now I'm prepared to walk in, share this with the customer. Hey, I want to talk to you about some of our service things. You haven't taken our NPS survey, but I'm pretty confident you're probably not feeling so great about our service levels, and I'm working on it. And then the same thing, and they would have additionally those details on the bottom half of the screen on where to focus to try to drive improvements.
So I want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, data availability. For someone that works at your company 2 years ago, for them to see all these things and be able to understand customer sentiment, what is the overall trends of us being able to meet our SLAs, that would have required them to log into multiple systems, multiple clicks, lots of wastage. And when I say wastage, I mean a lot of manual work that I simply don't have time as an employee to do that for every single one of my customers. Whereas now it's like within a click, I can see exactly what's going on. So kudos for you. This is absolutely brilliant. Now, to top all that, it's not just like financial data or service data. You actually have the NPS score here, how responsive they are, and like, why are they, like, it gives me a sense of, if I were to uptell them or upsell them on things, I know what motivates them. So that's brilliant. And then the third thing, which is the most innovative thing here, and I think that was just a home run for you, is that it's that synthetic NPS score. I don't think anybody is doing that. I have never seen it before. At least I haven't. Maybe somebody does, but I think it's very unique for your industry, to have all this data available to employees, and let alone come up with a synthetic, like, here's what we think the NPS is. And so I can prioritize my day better and be proactive.
Yeah, I think that's where I feel we have best in class advanced analytics. And our algorithm on synthetic is no less than 70 or so variables. And it's not just financials or service, the things we're showing here. And we have other tabs in our 360 that give you some of the things you were talking about, where we can look at trends within the business and some of our satisfaction measurements and our financial performance. We can layer in our NPS trends over our volume. It's been tough to really draw any correlations yet, because the supply chain has been such in the last couple of years with COVID that products have been tight, prices have gone up. So when you look at your traditional, hey, am I improving my revenues? Well, we might be, because prices are going up, and it may not have anything to do with improving NPS. And I think till we get to a more stable environment, it's going to be hard to show that. But yeah, that algorithm looks at things beyond those things. It looks at tenure. So we have in our HR database how long a customer service rep's been on an account. We know a seller. So we can look and say, wow, we think they'd be potentially a detractor because of tenure. And when I've challenged that, you go back, you're like, yeah, we just changed the CSR. We know we're a relationship business. So if we disrupt our relationships on the front side, it could have a detrimental impact. So what it basically does is it layers any customer that hasn't taken the survey at a contact level and compares that same type of customer's metrics along those 70 variables to a customer that looks like them that has taken the survey. So now, to Lee's point, we've got enough data, 20,000 surveys have been taken, that we have a pretty good vibe. It's only going to get better and better the more data we get, to say, wow, this customer in this industry took the survey with these results across those variables and was a detractor. Pretty good chance this customer would feel the same way if they took the survey. So our whole point was, we're not going to get everyone to take surveys. Worst case scenario, you pull this up, and even if it's not accurate, it's something we can take to the customer and say, your service levels look a little off. How are you feeling? And we don't require anything back from our organization. We just say, use it to go in and make a transparent sales call and talk about the customer experience.
What I'd add is, I think, Irit, you mentioned it earlier, how important it is for the employee experience. So I think back to, as an operator and being an operations leader in an organization, and how it was such a challenge to get to this kind of information before. And you'd have to go to 10 different people. And if there was an urgent issue for a customer, or a customer's upset, and now we've got to have a meeting with the customer, and you spend a week trying to validate all your information, and data is always a challenge. And so for us to now have this at the fingertips of our employees to go in and see, and there's so many different ways you can filter the data, whether you want to look at it from a seller's territory to a branch manager's location. You can look at it, and it's all through the customer's lens. It correlates back to how we are performing as a business as well. And so just that, super easy to get to this information, and enables us to make those faster decisions and do things for the customer more quickly than we've ever been able to before.
Honestly, Lee, not a lot of people know this, but I have been basically doing a lot of business intelligence projects in my past lives. And this just blows my mind. You were able to do this in 18 months. Like, the secret sauce for your success is because you were doing it maybe like in a segment, like a proof of concept. You just started with the US. So like a limited data set. Let's prove that. I think that's kind of like what I used to recommend my customers. I would say, let's not boil the ocean. Let's do it for a segment. We can clean it. We can make sure the data is accurate and complete. We can define it, set it up. Then after that is just adding additional data sets. Is that the approach you took as well?
That's exactly the approach we took. We started in the US. US does happen to be our largest share of our business. So it wasn't a small one, but because we had just gone through SAP, we had all data in one place. We know all the data is there. And we, like I said, had a brilliant team behind us that understood. We gave them the design of what we were trying to do, and they knew, okay, I got to go grab this, this, and this. And somehow they brought it all together for us. And it did take some time. And to Lee, if you want to share your screen again, I mean, this was the end result, but we didn't start here, which, in hindsight, it would have been great to start with a customer scorecard. We started with a bunch of data. And if I were a general manager again, how would I want to understand my voice of customer and how I'm working? And because we worked it kind of from top down, the feedback coming in from the field was great. They're like, this is great. So a little overwhelming, a lot of data. it'd be great if I could share with the customer. And that's where we ended up, was the customer view. But to Lee's point, this was the first view we had. And again, I try to think, everybody thinks differently about data and about performance and managing a business. So across the top, we had all these filters. So to your point, hey, I'm a CSR and I want to know how my customers, if they've given us feedback, no problem, filter on your name. Hey, I'm running the Northeast district. I want to know how that district overall is doing, and our segmentations in there. Are my top customers happy, or where am I seeing the most dissatisfaction or happiness? And then down at the bottom, again, we have kind of our performance metrics and our operational metrics on the very bottom. So no matter what filter I'm on, that all changes. And so to me, it was easy, but pulling this together, I think for the average user was hard to really kind of dial in and how do I leverage this in my business? And that's how we ultimately worked our way fairly quickly to that customer view for the seller, bottoms up. And this is really a top-down approach.
Lee, what is some of the feedback that you got from employees when they saw this for the first time?
I think that when they focus on just the NPS piece, because like Sam said, it's difficult. You may not get the response rates you want. Maybe when you get down to that granular level. So if you're a district general manager and you only got 15 customer contacts last month to tell you how you're doing, feel like you need to change the way you're doing business. And you're kind of even questioning the validity. Over time, that helps. But I think when they start to see that even if it's only 15, those 15, their experience matches how we're performing as a business. And so it adds that validity to them. It justifies the work that we're doing. And so I think that as they started to find how they could use the information within their day, it became more real. And we start to get really positive feedback. So leaders got a lot going on. And what we found is that it's at that grassroots level. Our individual sellers and sales managers, for example, that's, Sam mentioned we're hitting the road. We're going to hit all 13 US districts and hit Canada as well, and really work at that level with the individual contributor to show them how to use the solution, because that's where we see the most excitement. So like, this is great. I have so much information available to me. It makes my job easier. It speeds things up. So I think what's important is to remember when you're deploying a strategy, you have to bring the customer's lens to what they're doing. Don't drag them away to do something different, but make it easier for them and give them that view of what the customer's experience like, where they're at in their day, how they're working. And I think that's what we've accomplished here. So feedback's been outstanding. We're really excited. We continue to improve upon it. I mean, even this view, it's already changed. We've added some different views around the CXI score, because we're serious about feedback, not just from our customers, but internally. So Sam and we see our customers also as those that are using these tools and solutions. And they're telling us every day, hey, could you do this? Could you try this? I mean, that customer view really came from the field saying, I love this, but I can't show contribution margin to the customer, right? Can I get a customer friendly view? And that evolved into this awesome, synthetic built-in, really kind of call prep solution. So yeah, feedback's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't want to lose sight on one key point you mentioned. And I think initially, because we were working top down, and people were like, this is cool. Yeah, I can see it, but I got 1,000 other reports I got to go. And it wasn't until over time and constantly working with them that people, I didn't realize that was in there, because it's just a little overwhelming for them. But the biggest lesson, and you had asked that, Irit, was when you get to the front line, the people dealing with customers, their minds are like blown. They saw it when we showed you the customer scorecard. They were like, this is incredible. And we're like, well, that's the reaction we've been looking for. No offense to our senior leaders. They're like, yeah, this is really cool. It's a really cool tool. And we start pushing down, and we weren't quite getting the adoption until we started showing it bottom up. And then they got it, because they're the ones talking to customers. They're the ones feeling the brunt of the customer experience, good, bad, and different. And so to be able to give them something that gives them a lot of information in one place so they don't have to go to 15 reports, we thought just hit one button, put your account number in, you're good to go.
I think that's incredible. And I want to applaud you for taking so much effort and energy around teaching your employees on how to use this, doing this roadshow. I know that's really critical step in getting that change management.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously the pandemic slowed us down, or we would have been out there sooner. So it's been nice. So it's given us the time to focus. I think we're both pulled out of our roles. It's a very chaotic business. And part of the challenge of doing any kind of program or any kind of initiative is a lot of times, and we're no exception, because in the past I've run a business and done some side work. Lee and I didn't have side work. And it was a little uncomfortable. It was weird to be able to sit and think and read and talk to people. And it just was strange for me for the first 90 days. It was really uncomfortable. But then I think we thought, well, this could be a lot of fun. So we were given the runway to do that, which is why I think we got it done so quickly. We were aligned resources that mattered with our advanced analytics team, and we had that leadership support. And those three things, I think, really helped accelerate us getting through this so quickly.
Lee, what are the priorities for 2023? Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, we want to take our voice of customer to the next level. So, we mentioned it's that basic fundamental NPS question and some things around customer satisfaction, but we really want to get more transactional around it. And so we want to start to measure more specifically, insert those additional listening posts along the journey. And so whether it's how was your order process, how was your delivery, how was the accuracy of your invoice, we want to start to engage our customers at that point in time and measure performance around that specific journey touch point. And leveraging technology to do that again, and making sure that data is not just there, as I mentioned, but that it's actionable. We're doing something with it. So a lot of thought that's going to go into that. We'll continue to leverage. Qualtrics has been a great partner for us in helping us to facilitate voice of customer and doing these things. So we're going to continue to work with them to, on that ideation around what else can we do? But that's big for us. CX360, getting that fully deployed globally. So getting into our EMEA region, hopefully a roadshow there as well, to make sure that they understand how to effectively use the solution. We want to really push forward with the synthetic NPS. We think it is a game changer. This is huge for us, and we're so excited about that advancement for us because, again, it's so hard. Customers have so much going on. Feedback is a gift. And when they do take that moment to tell you how you're doing, you want to hear more and more, but you may not always get that. So synthetic really, it allows us to be more proactive than reactive as well. NPS, it's lagging. That's a few months ago, and customers have a long memory, right? So you didn't do good for them last year, that's going to carry on. But that more transactional approach around our voice of customer 2.0 and that synthetic NPS really starts to give us that future state predictive type ability, and then ultimately get to where we want to be in our net promoter score. That will be the icing on the cake, is when we get to where our customers are telling us we're doing as good as we think we are.
It's wonderful. I love how the timing of this is in conjunction with structural changes within the organization, going through a merger and acquisition and new systems. It couldn't be really a better time to just making sure that the business is focused on the customer, because when there's so many things that are going on, customers might be lost in the chaos. That's right. So the fact that the company actually set up the A team, so to speak, right?
Well, we can brag now that we have awards. So yeah, we definitely leverage those internally, that we're the A team. We're gold winners. Anybody else?
So the fact that they pulled you out of your existing positions and set up a team that's just dealing with that to ensure that this doesn't get lost, I think that speaks volume about the executive team as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the foresight that David had to set this up amidst everything going on, to your point, was good, and we were more than happy to come join him on that. So
yeah, we've been asked that question of why would you start measuring this right now when it's as bad as it can get? We've said that there's no better time, right? This
nowhere to go but up. Nowhere to go
but up. If everyone in your industry is struggling, right? How do you differentiate yourself so that when you come out of that storm, you're their preferred choice? And we said it's by listening to our customers. That's what's going to make the difference, is being responsive to them and hearing them out and following up.
I'm glad you said that, Lee, because that is one of the reasons why I think that did differentiate us, standing this up in the middle of everything that we talked about already. We might have been the only distributor that, one, was asking for your feedback in a chaotic time and following up on your feedback. Now, our sales organization wasn't always hearing. Look, there's not a lot they could do about the supply chain dynamics. So I think they started to feel like there's not much else I can say. And I'm like, yeah, but you're still listening and you're acknowledging, and no one else is doing that. And so hopefully that in and of itself was a differentiated experience for our customers. They got a chance to voice and be heard.
Yeah, proactive empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
said better.
Well, thank you so much. This was absolutely so interesting to watch. I mean, there's so much innovation in the way you approached it, the speed in which you've implemented everything, your thoughtful approach around change management. I mean, all of it is just inspiring, if anything. And I hope that other folks that work with or at companies that are as big and complex as yours can watch this and say, hey, here's a large company that just went through a merger and acquisition, that took upon itself to put customers at the center of everything and put the investment in it, and look at the results that they're already seeing. NPS has gone up. They are much more proactive than their competitors. The visibility and transparency is now something that is possible, whereas wastage has been eliminated. So there's a lot of wins and a lot of things to celebrate within a very short period of time, in my humble opinion. 18 months for a company your size is absolutely phenomenal. And I have no surprise for the fact that you won so many awards.
Well, thank you. It feels really good. I see Lee smiling and shaking his head, because you're right. I think when we sat back, like, where are we going to go? And there's a lot of people we haven't named, but, we partnered with one of our suppliers who'd been on a longer journey. And so they were open to share their feedback on what worked, what didn't work. So I think one of our messages to anyone that is listening, we're happy to share, because again, anytime you can take a best practice, that's the beauty. It worked for us. It might work for you. Tweak it for your business. Here's a framework that worked for us, and we drove it. So yeah, there's a lot of great people out there that help support us externally and internally.
Everyone who's watching, if you have questions about this phenomenal program, reach out to Sam or Lee on their LinkedIn profile. I'm sure you can find them. I found them very easily. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment below what was your favorite part, and of course, subscribe to our channel. I'll see you at the next video.